Hello and welcome to Art Portals. My name's Loren.
What up? It's your boy, Rex.
It's the boy. And today we have a pretty cool episode. We are going to be discussing how to persevere amongst adversity as an artist because life and society is not really built for us artists, right? It just tries to kick you down, shuffle you around, and fit you into a little corporate box.
It wants your lunch money. It's gonna find you.
Bullies you. It's just like interrogating you all day. And then
Yep.
you're like, well, gotta pay my taxes.
Nerd. Stop painting. What are you gonna do? Paint about it?
Yeah, but artists are like, nah, fuck you. I'm going to do whatever I want. It's the biggest rebellion you could possibly take in society because you're just like, it's okay. I'll be broke, but at least I'm happy.
Yeah, get out of my room. Take me to Hot Topic.
Exactly.
It's me. I'm gonna paint. And you're gonna be mad about it.
Exactly, right. So I feel like this episode is pretty relevant to us because as up and coming artists, it's like interesting how society determines success and like the level of success that needs to be achieved. And it's always about like, oh, once you acquire this set amount of money, then you'll be able to understand what it means to be a successful artist. But that's not always the case, especially if you don't have that privilege of connections and being in a community. You do have to kind of start from ground zero. But being an artist isn't just about the social status, it's about that process and creation. And that is what it means to truly connect with what's in front of you. And so when life is trying to knock you down constantly and there's all these distractions, how do you stay motivated?
How
And
do
keep
you
going?
stay motivated? That's a question I ask myself a lot. And something I'll do is I'll look in the mirror and I'll ask myself the same question every day. And that would be WWJCD, which is what would Jackie Chan do? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is as soon as your ideas start to dry up, move to China, start a new life there, become a pop singer, and then come back to America 20 years later. And suddenly you're a sensation again. You can jump through ladders again and people aren't bored of it anymore.
I mean, but not a lot of people are aware of Jackie's music career.
If you aren't aware of Jackie Chan's music career, type in Jackie Chan, okay, I love you. Good luck listening to any other song and not crying. It's so damn good. Jackie Chan is a sensation, and I will chant about him constantly. I'll scream about him from rooftops. WWJCD. What would he do?
Well, yeah. Thank you, Jackie Chan, for keeping it strong with us artists.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie.
So yeah, essentially that's kind of the topic of today, and I think that especially you, Rex, like we're going through different types of struggles. We just moved out to California, and having to find a way to finance our livelihood as well as like making the time to still create can be distracting. But I think the most important thing is learning how to trust that uncertainty and those knock you downs that keep happening over and over again, because I think everything in life is meant to challenge you and meant to really show how dedicated you are to what you're doing and what you love. And if you truly love what you do, then that financial status, that end result, none of that's going to matter. What's going to matter is your joy, the joy within those failures, the joy within the distractions, even, that every day is going to be testing you, and you have to learn to really question, hey, this is something that is the most important thing in my life right now. And regardless of how society wants me to pay attention to the fact that I have no money or that I have to pay my bills or that my parents are just like, why aren't you getting married yet? Why aren't you this? Why aren't you that? It's like, no, that's not important. That's just the standard that's being set on us.
I'm focused on getting my black belt.
Exactly, in karate.
I'm trying to do karate
That's an art form in
with a
itself.
bunch of 12-year-olds. I'm the only adult in the children's karate class. There's no rule against it. I'm just there to learn. I'm using the mirrors, practicing my roundhouse kicks.
Exactly. What do you feel is the best advice that we can give out to artists who feel discouraged. They feel like there's all these things that society is demanding for them to focus on, at least Western society and Western culture, but I feel that this can apply to anybody really. How does a person continue to persevere amongst all the adversity?
Something I would say to someone who's struggling with perseverance is detach money from happiness. So you shouldn't be robbed of joy just because you're not making money from doing something that you enjoy doing. You should continue to enjoy it and try to not make your enjoyment from that activity be transactional. Try not to say, okay, I'm going to paint for 30 more minutes, or I'm going to finish this drawing and then I'm going to go do the thing I enjoy. It should be, no, I think that I'm going to enjoy this drawing while it's happening for as long as it takes. And I'm not going to draw joy or sadness from it. Any result that comes from it, I don't think is going to knock you down. I think it's just you're giving that power, you know? So it's whatever you give your power to is when you start to lose sight of how many blessings you have in life. And, you know, you could have a day job. You could work 9 to 5. But you can still make art at nighttime. That's okay. But I think that art doesn't have to be a career. And in a lot of cases, it shouldn't be. Because then you kind of tie your ideas with success and you tie your ideas with finances. And maybe the problem with that is that once you say something well enough that you get recognition, that from that point on, you're always going to be measuring yourself to that previous success. So in a way, having constant failure is better than constant success, like commercially. So I think it's important to, even if you have succeeded in the past doing something, just forget about all that, throw it away, never happened, and just keep moving forward and build an identity based off of enjoyment and not financial insecurity or like financial hardship. I don't think is the goal you're trying to resolve with your art. I think it should be, I'm trying to make the most authentic piece that I can. I'm going to take as long as it takes. And everyone around me can respectfully shut the fuck up while I do my thing. I'm staying in my lane.
Exactly.
And if people feel like clicking like and subscribe, that's cool too. But it's not about that.
Yeah, and that's such an important mindset to have because people really aren't going to understand what you're doing, and that's okay, you know. And I feel that two things I took away from what you said is just having gratitude and being authentic is what should be your goal amongst all the adversity. Because yes, in life there is suffering, but we don't have to choose to actively suffer and sit in that suffering. I think like pain is a part of it, but we can't just allow that to mold just victimization. And we can go through so many different struggles, right? And that doesn't define us. We are not our struggles. We're not what our parents want us to be. We're not what our peers tell us. We're not the already successful artists that we see on Instagram. They've done that. They've had their own career path, and the comparison is also going to hold you back. So there has to be this sort of self-love and understanding of why you wake up every day. And even if things aren't working out, even if, you know, you have to go back to serving, because that's happened to me several times, and it might even happen to me again soon. But the most important thing is that I'm curating and constructing a life that enables me to wake up and be present with my art, be present with my growth, and allows me to not become these failures. Because I think society wants that. It wants these mindless people that aren't questioning anything, that are just following the rules, that are going to their jobs. And of course, it's important. Economy is important. Societal structures are important. But it can also prevent us from reaching and tapping into creativity. And who wants a society of a bunch of I've done it all befores? It's not fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think having that awareness of what you're doing is extremely important. And it's also very difficult when you're first starting out because you do need that space to kind of experiment and to mess up and to not be the best. And seeing other artists already selling their quote unquote commercial art or whatever type of work they're doing can be discouraging, but you have to separate yourself from that. That's not your path. You're on your own path. And I mean, we've all been there. I've been there several times. But there's something that starts to happen. There's this shift that starts to happen when you focus your energy on what's actually important instead of giving all of your time to what's supposed to be holding you back.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think even if something has been done before, most important thing is timing and how it's done. So we actually watched a good episode of South Park last night about how everything's been done on The Simpsons before. And at the end of the episode, the resolution is, well, yeah, of course, The Simpsons have done it, but The Simpsons stole those ideas from other people, and just because it's been done before doesn't mean it can't be improved upon or built on in a way that's unique. And I haven't watched any of those episodes of The Simpsons that they're talking about, so I'd much rather watch South Park's version of it. So just because you've seen someone else interpret something, you can do it too. You can do it better. Even if it's not quote unquote better, it's yours, and that's the most important thing. No one can take your voice away. So if you can decide, I'm okay with this, this is a really good idea, that's really all you need. And at the end of the day, everyone else is just thinking about themselves. So if you can just depersonalize it, think of it just, you have to get it off your chest. Because one day you're not going to have enough energy to do it. So might as well take advantage of the sunlight that you have, the daylight, whatever. Clock in, get what you need done, get out. Say what you need to do. It's a bank heist. You need to get in, finish the art piece before you lose steam and momentum. Get it all out on canvas or in your sculpture, whatever you're doing. Vomit all your feelings out so you can go and be a decent person. Be a class act civilian.
But really, it's important to question the roles that we are playing within society and how much of that is feeding a corporation or somebody who's making all of your money off of you, and how much of it is actually helping society and helping people, helping your neighbor. You know, like, we all want to stop war and have peace and all these things, but we can't even turn and look at the person next to us. So I think, like, artists in a way have a responsibility to not need to conform to the standards that are put upon us, you know? But we have to survive, and it does go back to that question of financial freedoms. And how do we achieve financial freedom when we don't have any, right? So I think it's essentially just about working towards a goal and embracing that uncertainty of not knowing that we're going to have money, but working towards a daily ritual and routine where we can find jobs and we can find ways to make money that also go with our lifestyles of making sure that we show up to the studio every day. And if you can't show up one day because you have to work this shitty job for a bit, then maybe it's a sacrifice that's worth going through, correct? So
Yeah. And I think that goes hand in hand with what I was saying earlier, where you don't have to make money off of the thing you're passionate about. You could also treat your day job like a necessary evil. You go, you get what you need, which is more than likely money for you or your family. And then you can come home and get all of the feelings you didn't get to get out at work out on your art instead of beating your wife or something. So so something that I learned about in art history class that I thought was pretty exciting is Hieronymus Bosch. He has the Garden of Earthly Delights.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, it's beautiful. Google it. But something he would do is, he was a total weirdo, but he would go home and paint his coworkers being dismembered by demonic sparrows and just like all these weird things happening, and they're all really hard to describe, but it, to me, is the pure essence of an artist is you have to get the feelings out, and if you can't get it out all day, you have a 4 or 5 hour window of time where you have to get it all out. And I think that's honestly even better for you because there's a sense of urgency that comes with it. So maybe you're a construction worker and maybe you don't dislike your job, but maybe it's not the most fulfilling thing, but all day you're living in anticipation for that 4 to 5 hour window of time. And it makes you have that snap, that spark when you step into the studio. So that's really important, is to find a way to give yourself that spark. And if you can't find it organically, you need to find some form of motivation, whether that's reaching out to a therapist or maybe identifying with a plant medicine that's helpful for you. It's not my job to tell you, but I think that there's no one right way to make an omelet, and you got it. Whatever you got to do, you know what you need to do. No one can tell you how to get there.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that, because that spark is really what's worth living for. And being able to wake up in the morning and just be excited about this dangerous and mundane job, but super important job still in a weird way, like construction, for example. It's like, it's uplifting and it's motivating and it allows you to be grateful, right? At least you have a job, at least you have a place to sleep and rest your head, and you get to wake up and you have some time to create. But it's also something that you make time for. And it's a choice, it's a conscious choice that you're making when you are like, okay, I'm going to do this job and maybe this will take me somewhere. But that's not my essential goal. What I'm trying to do is be present with where I am right now in this very moment. And, things are hard. Things aren't easy. Maybe you have a family that you need to provide for. Maybe you have a disability or whatever the adversity is. It's okay, because at the end of the day, like, you are trying to breathe life into misfortune. And how do you do that when everything seems so terribly wrong? But it's not. You're here for a purpose, and that purpose can be just that personal experience you have with yourself when you're creating. And it doesn't have to be the most glorious, amazing thing. It doesn't, it could be whatever you want it to be. That's the whole point. And so I think that being able to step away from what's preventing you from being happy, or what should be preventing you, could really allow you to grow through all this adversity. And so that when something shitty does happen, it's not going to ruin your day. It's not going to be like, well, now I have a terrible day because X, Y, and Z happened. And so I'm just going to pout and I'm not going to paint about it or express how I feel. I'm just going to sit in this misery bubble and allow this to cultivate because I'm just angry. And it's like a waste of your time, So there's always going to be issues. How much of your attention are you going to continue to give to them? And how much are you going to actually recognize, like, okay, this sucks. Tomorrow I'll put some work in to figure this out. Maybe that means I need a new job. Maybe I have to say goodbye to a partner or a friendship whatever that may be. But always be there for yourself. And I think art is the highest act of self-love that you can focus on within your life.
Right.
Yeah.
When things get difficult, remember again, what would Jackie Chan do?
Always back to Jackie Chan.
Probably grab a metal pipe off the ground and start swinging it around and knock down 20 people who are all coming at him at the same time.
GTA style.
Just do a spinning back kick, knock down some thugs with vague intentions, and then jump off a 2-story building into a dumpster and somehow walk away unscathed. That's what I would do. I don't know about you, but when I feel sad, that's what I do. Go to steamy warehouses and pick fights with mob bosses and crime enterprises.
Hell yeah. You let him know who's boss.
Yeah, I will. Huge shout out to Jackie Chan.
Oh my god. But something else I like to also think about is this like phrase that everything is a lesson. And I think about that all the time because I'm just like so exhausted by it. It's just
Everything happens for a reason.
yeah, exactly. It's like everything happens for a reason. And it's just so shitty because sometimes we're born into a life with a lot of adversities. It could be you're a person of color, or you come from poverty, or you're just around super religious people that mandate a certain lifestyle from you. There's all these things that, you know, sometimes you can't control or choose. And so it's like, if something wrong happens to you, is that a lesson to be learned? Or is that just life being shitty, because it sometimes can be, and learning how to not allow that to guide your next step? Because if you feel like everything is always a lesson, then you're always going to be in a place that you're not good enough, that you can't, that you're not at this space where you're equipped to handle these things, like you're deserving of these terrible things. And sometimes you're not. Nobody deserves like not being able to pay their bills. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just about being conscious of the situation that you're in and allowing it to not affect your everyday.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's a more literal interpretation that can be made there where everything happens for a reason because of a series of decisions that led to that moment. But I don't think it's like this is happening because of some weird spiritual conclusion. I think, 9/11 didn't happen because those people were bad people or like anything like that. But
Sure.
I do think there is a series of events that led up to that moment that could have been avoided. And there is a reason why it happened. But there's a reason for everything that happens. There's no reason to even say everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Because you're just using words to describe life when maybe life is just more mercurial and weird than we can imagine. So why are we trying to compartmentalize and say, oh, well, it's happening for your highest potential?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
maybe it just happens because you're bad at doing math and you didn't account for the amount of weight that's going to be on the back of this truck and you killed a family of 4 on accident. Now you're going to jail for life. And it happened for a reason. And the reason is you're an asshole and you're bad at doing math. But also, I can understand where people are coming from, where they're going through abject poverty. They're going through some sort of really difficult time and they seek religion and they're like, oh, this is happening for a higher reason. That I understand, but it's also, in a way, maybe a cop-out. It's preventing you from making decisions that are difficult and important for you to make.
Yeah, because I feel like it also, when you put yourself in this mindset that everything happens for a reason and I did this and this is why this happened, you're always going to be set up for disappointment because you're holding all of your expectations on this one thing going right. And if it doesn't go right, then it's this crushing thing and it goes back into the cycle of like just, well, I did this wrong and the universe brought this to me because I needed to learn this lesson and now I'm going to be better and I'm going to change. And I don't think there's anything that we can do with the curveballs that life throws at us. really the most important thing is just not having such high expectations. Just live and be present with yourself, and be aware of, hey, this kind of sucks, but it's okay. Like, that's it. It sucks. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
have an explanation, you know? I lost my job today. That sucks. There goes my ability to pay my rent, but I have a little bit of savings. I'm going to look for a new job, and now I get more time to paint, and I might not have any money for rent next month. This sucks. Not like I did anything wrong. It's just life. But there's also, that space of awareness, and so how do you separate awareness from this preconceived notion of reality? It's just looking within yourself and saying, hey, this was kind of a shitty situation. Maybe I did sabotage this experience I had, and this is a lesson I can learn. But it doesn't always have to be within this space of disappointment and neglect, right? So I think that we just have to try to be positive and find more resourceful solutions.
Yeah, I think a healthier response to trauma happening is, rather than saying everything happens for a reason, just say it is what it is, because ultimately anything beyond it is just rationalization, and it's human experiences, and we're trying to compartmentalize with words, and it is. And if you can learn to move on, obviously it takes a certain level of difficulty depending on the situation, but if you can just accept things as they are, don't loom in the moment, and keep moving on, you're going to keep encountering more and better problems, bigger, more intense. There's always going to be problems, but you're going to fail into something cooler each time. So if you keep dwelling in the mistakes of the past, you're going to rob yourself of the present moment.
Exactly.
And you're going to miss out on all the future moments that would occur if you picked yourself up, recognized it is what it is, and move on. I'm going to leave all this stuff in that last room I was in. I'm going to step forward into a new room full of obstacles, but ultimately, it is what it is. I am where I am, and I will be where I'm going to be.
I like what you said, though, like you're falling into cooler experiences, because that's kind of what ends up happening. Even with this move to California, we aren't sure where we're going. We aren't sure how we're going to pay our bills, but we have some opportunities here and there. And just that little bit of hope, it's also like this level of trust that we have. And yes, there are, like you said, those new obstacles, but there's something beautiful about being able to also recognize that cooler experiences, which is just being able to be somewhere new with new experiences and opportunities to help us grow as artists. And everything kind of always will go back in alignment with what we want from life. And when we put out that energy of, hey, this is what I expect, and I don't expect anything less from this, then you're able to handle all these difficulties at a much calmer rate. You're not gonna, pull your hair out trying to figure out why things haven't worked out for you yet. It's been X amount of time. It should be kicked off at this point. None of that matters. It's within that gratitude and within finding joys in the failures that we truly embrace who we are as people and the type of artists that we want to be. And I think when one thing doesn't work out, it's not for a reason, but if you can pay attention to the misfortunes, if you can pay attention to the new opportunities, then you can pave your way into something even better that you never would have even imagined. And I think that is when uncertainty really comes into play. And with art making especially, and it could be something as simple as you want to try plein air painting and you're always used to painting what's in front of you, but you want to put more soul into this mountain that you just discovered, right? So how do you do that without, putting this structured, linear formula into everything? And sometimes it's just the silence of those thoughts and how you should do things that allows you to know that next step.
Yeah.
Cool.
You got to persevere. And keep thinking about all the cool things in your life. And even though the bad may outweigh the good, at least you got the good things. And if you decide to look for it, I'm sure you'll find more and more good things.
Totally. Yeah. And sit with those negative emotions and thoughts and just let them pass, because I think that's also super healthy to do. But yeah, gratitude. Gratitude is everything. I think that wraps it up. What do you think? I feel like we covered it all.
I think so too. Huge shout out to Jackie Chan. Thank you for
Yes, thank you,
sponsoring
Jackie.
this episode. This episode is brought to you by Rush Hour 2.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. And this is one of our first podcast episodes, so we would really love your support. You can find us on Instagram. We're Art Portals. Or if you have any questions, we are artportalspodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, thank you so much for checking us out.